High Level is a full CRM and marketing platform, and I've used some of the best in the SaaS industry. And we are live from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and I think that's it. I didn't get Instagram set up. It's Revening's Wednesday. Welcome to Wednesday, Revenue Party people. I see one of you are on YouTube. We can see that from within here. Where did you go, YouTuber? And a couple of you are slowly coming on to LinkedIn. And if you are logging in, let us know, where are you tuning in from? What do you do? We want to keep this conversation for you. So plug into the comments throughout the show and just let us know that you're here and participate in the conversation with us. We'll try to put your comments up on the screen and in as real time as possible. But yeah, this conversation is for you. But before we get into it, I want to make sure and tell you about two companies, Cherry Assistant and High Level. So first of all, Cherry Assistant, I couldn't have done this show or built my agency without them. They've helped place different virtual assistants with me from around the world with different skills that I need. And it's like, I need production. So we do exactly this for our clients. We help them go live on LinkedIn. We repurpose it to podcasts, short form video, social media. We take transcripts from this, feed it to AI, learn our client's voice so then we can go right as them on their social medias. And, LinkedIn, of course, is our specialty, but we do it across channels. And each business is different. Some are working on Facebook, some are targeting on TikTok. So we want to look at your strategy, your audience, and figure out what works for you. But that's what we do. And Cherry Assistant helps place people with us who help us scale this. So we have a video editor, Oscar, who has just been cranking out so many videos. And, never would have met them without Cherry Assistant and wouldn't have been able to scale this business as quickly as we did. So I would suggest scanning this QR code. And I love having a sponsor who I use myself because I feel really good telling you about them. DJ Kim is the owner of this business, and I've had a really great experience working with them. They will go into your business, basically understand exactly what your need is, sometimes better than you do, and then go find the person with the right timing and the right skills that will help you. So scan that QR code, or if you're listening on podcast later on, just go to cherryassistant.com. And if you mention that you heard about them through WinsDay, you'll get $250 off your first month. So check them out. And then also High Level. You heard about in the intro video, it's a CRM. So there's no need to pay 5 figures for CRMs anymore. Back when I was a CMO of a business, we were paying, I don't even want to say how much for some of those big B2B SaaS companies. You don't have to do that anymore. You can minimize your tech stack. You can downsize it with nimble tools built around AI that are only $97 a month with all the same features that you get on some of those big SaaS tools. So High Level, you can find it at reventing.com/high level. Or scan this QR code. This is my affiliate link. So if you sign up, I want to help make sure that it works for you because I'll get a 40% cut every time you renew. So yeah, check it out. Of course, I white label High Level. So for us, it's app.reventing.com. And when you work with us, we get you an app.reventing.com account because we want to show you the leads that we're able to get you, or marketing agency. So a lot of businesses, they don't have their CRM plugged in yet. Let us know if you're tuning in. What CRM are you using? Which ones have you used? What are your favorites? What marketing automation platforms? We want to hear from you. Have you ever tried High Level? But before I ramble on any more about high level, let's get into tonight's guests. I want to introduce you both to some amazing guests that we have on tonight. We've got Anthony May and James Espey. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Jesse, for letting us in. I'm sorry, James.
Thank you for being here. Yes, absolutely. And good old-fashioned Wednesday style, we want to learn about both of you, but your full life story, the stuff we can't find about you on LinkedIn, from birth to what brought you to now. Could you kick us off, James?
Well, I was born in Zambia in 1943. My parents got divorced, and I went to boarding school in Cape Town 4 days and 4 nights by train. It was tough. I might have been privileged in the old South Africa, but I was one of the poorest students, but it gave me a bit of ambition. And when I finished there, I was inspired by a professor at Harvard called Ted Levitt. I read his books on marketing, so I decided to give up accounting and study marketing. So I finished a Bachelor of Commerce degree with marketing and accounting. And then in 1968, I did an MBA degree, which really was the best accelerator of my life. And in 1970, I entered the liquor trade in South Africa, working for what is part of Diageo, but in those days called Gilbey's. And in 1977, they took a chance and transferred me to London as a foreigner. When I arrived in London, I said, good Lord, this savage from the colonies doesn't know how to pass the port properly. Anyway, I had a fun time, and I've been building liquor brands ever since. Malibu, chairman of Bailey's Irish Cream, Johnnie Walker Blue Label I invented, Shivers Regal 18 I invented, they fired me, and then since then they've said, thank you so much for what you did. And then I had my own company called The Last Drop, and now I'm at the young age of 82, I'm chairman of a startup English whiskey company called Wiltshire Distilling. And it's just very exciting to be involved with marketing, meeting people, traveling the world. And for the record, I've been to America 100 times at least, and I'll tell you why later. So that's my story in a nutshell. A lot of fun. Keep fit physically, obviously, because you've got to be fit as you get older. You've got to be fit anyway. So stay fit and enjoy yourself.
I love that.
That's
Thank
me.
you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it, James. That's a valuable story and lesson. So yeah, stay fit. And now, Anthony, could you please introduce yourself to the audience in the same style? 2 minutes from birth to what brought you to now.
No problem. Name's Anthony May. I live here in Arizona, where I think my car is trying to kill me 3 months out of the year with boiling temperatures. I got into marketing from a very young age. I was very, very interested in it. I came to Arizona about the age of 21 and opened a business quick after that. After that, got into digital marketing and became one of the largest in that industry in the nation very fast. From there, I sold the business. I started actually being recruited into legal marketing, cybersecurity marketing, and helping consulting along the way. And I have to say, it's one of the most rewarding and most exciting experiences I have. It is definitely by far one of the biggest passions I have. And I have to say that I've got to deal with some great companies, from NASCAR to Major League Baseball to Super Bowl, Callaway, Goldsmith, and I've got to go ahead and work with many, many different types of companies and many different types of issues and or solutions. And I'm just happy to be here and being able to talk about these two products that I think are going to be very, very important for anybody who's a marketer or doesn't know about marketing or really wants to go ahead and know how does digital marketing work. And I'm very, very excited to go ahead and share that with everybody here.
Oh, well, we have a great conversation. I'm looking forward to this conversation, hoping to learn myself. Thank you again both for being here. Let's just dive right into our first topic. And again, audience, keep us honest here. We want to hear from you. Sorry, Layla, I accidentally clicked. Links still matter, but mentions make you discoverable in AI. Anthony, can you kick us off on this topic?
Not a problem. Definitely can do that. I've done it more than once. So we talk about digital marketing itself, and digital marketing and marketing in general in regards to the internet. There's some flaws in regards to how the internet was built and how Google or Yahoo or maybe 50 other different search companies have to go ahead and kind of work with those pieces. And for a long time, links have been one of the most important aspects we could, because it's more or less, it's a vote. And that's why it's called the www in earlier years, because the World Wide Web, it was a net from a link from here to a link from here. Then we had search engines that come on in. Those search engines said, hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to categorize this. So when you're looking for it, we are going to go ahead and give you the right information at the right time. So that happened. But as digital marketers were able to figure some pieces out and be able to augment the reality of actually the content that was actually coming through, Google had to put basically guidelines in place. They had to penalize, they had to remove, they had to reward correct behaviors in it. And so that's always been kind of a big problem for Google itself. And it still is, and Google has gotten smarter and smarter and smarter. There's no joke. Those guys definitely have the IQ that I don't. But with that being said, we now have AI. And so why do mentions matter as much, if not more? We really look at how Google works, and we talked about those links coming in and saying, hey, this is my vote for the most popular piece on the internet or in the world, and this is my vote. Now we go ahead and start getting into the AI aspect of it, where it says we're looking not only at links, and that is important still, and that's part of the algorithm itself for Google, but we need to look at pieces such as, what is somebody on Reddit actually mentioning about us? What does Facebook, or what does Instagram or TikTok, what do they say about this piece? What do ratings over here mean? And what are they over here? And yes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use Google on part of it, but it's not the sole contributor of actually putting this piece into AI. And as we're doing this also, we're learning on this factor also. So the more that we can get mentioned in, let's say, a Reddit article and saying, hey, Joe over here has a great company. He does auto glass, for example. And not only does Joe recommend us, but Jessica over in Tucson, Arizona, and Jim over in Johannesburg. And I hope that somebody in Johannesburg is not getting auto glass from somebody in Arizona. But that being said, all of those votes, which are not links anymore, but more or less saying that, hey, we're talking about this, we're interested in this. AI, you're going to go ahead and start grabbing this information. I need you to go ahead and return this, because we're no longer looking for a collection of answers on Google. Our searches have changed. And for that right now, we're looking for what is the answer to this, and what is step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And how do I get from point A to point B? And don't make me do extra work by looking at the 3rd result, the 5th result, the 2nd result. Give it to me, and give it to me the way that I want it, which is as fast as possible, and making sure that I get what I need as soon as possible. And so with that being said, links definitely do still matter. There's not a question. SEO is still very alive, and it's part of the algorithm in regards to how we go ahead and not only show up in Google, but it is only a part now of what AI is. And I want to open this up, and if you guys have any questions, please let me know, because I know this is a very nerdy, and I am super nerdy subject, but it's going to have, for every time we talk about this, there's going to be 3 more questions on the back end that are going to go ahead and say, hey, what about this, this, and this?
Absolutely. And I saw a couple comments come in. I saw one from Marissa and a couple from AP. Thanks for tuning in. If you're tuning in, let us know what you think too. Andrew Paul says, what do we mean by post-click era? We'll be getting into that. I think that is that our 3rd topic? But we can dive into it a little bit. Anyone want to mention post-click era and what's the AI tech stack? AP's wondering. But anything, and AI search as well when it comes to prompting foundation models, ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok. You want to get into any of those questions?
I don't really understand that last question, but we talk about beyond clicks. And I have to say, when we go ahead and we talk about clicks, and clicks have been super important for a long time. But I remember about 3 or 4 years ago talking about this with a couple of people that are actually high up in regards to digital marketing. And the thought is that eventually we're going to go ahead and get into a world where clicks are no longer the solution. And what I mean post-click is that most of the time we're seeing, and as we look at our Google Search Consoles or analytic accounts, we are having less and less clicks, because a lot of those pieces are that top of the funnel is not as existent as it used to be at one time. So people are finding that answer. Maybe it's Perplexity. Maybe they're doing it on a Chat GPT, or maybe it's a different AI itself. But they're finding the answer that they need right there. And so it's not to go ahead and say that Google by any means is not functioning and not worthwhile in today's day and age, but it is super important to realize that marketing is evolving. And with that, we have to evolve with it. And so that post-click or no-click era that we're actually starting to go into, we're going to see more and more of that, because we're going to actually have that answer served to us in an AI aspect and not have to necessarily look for it right now.
Great point. James, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I'm an 82-year-old Luddite. I can hardly spell click. So I have nothing but respect for what Anthony is saying, but I know very little about AI. And it's obviously something that I have to find out more about, because I worry about it politically. I worry about the fact that more and more people invade your private life. You know, I'm sitting here in London, I'm wondering why all of a sudden everything is being is out. You know, systems are out, stores are out. So I worry about technology, the development of technology generally, whilst I see the value of technology.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that AI itself is going to be, and just Google and everything else is going to be based on one very simplistic factor. They really want trust. That's what they want. They want to go ahead and believe that, hey, I'm going to serve this, because Google has built a whole, their whole system is, hey, we're going to go ahead and serve this as number one, number two, number three, because we believe that this is actually the product that you want. This is the solution to your answer. Now we've actually just gone to the next era where we have the AI of some sort saying, we are going to go ahead and use that right there, but we're not just going to go ahead and use Google's algorithm as it was and have that be the only source and truth in this. We're going to take a collective of that. And the collective says, this is the truth, or this is what we trust, and this is what we want to serve because we believe behind this solution to your answer. Yeah. I hope that answers collectively kind of the question that was actually asked there, or issue itself.
Absolutely. I think it does. And AP, you keep us honest. Did we get your question answered? I think this is all really important. I'm glad that we're talking about all these different AI platforms, because it is important to try them all for one. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Reviting is just letting you know, Eduardo, when you come up as LinkedIn user, it's because of your LinkedIn data privacy settings. Basically, you got to tell LinkedIn it's okay to share your data with StreamYard, which is a preferred LinkedIn vendor, but LinkedIn cannot go live without a third party. So we're on StreamYard. You've got to give us access to that data to give your name. I digress. Anything else on this topic before we get into personal brand early, start building young, which James is going to be kicking off on? Before we get into that, anything you want to tie up with this AI topic, Anthony?
As we look at it, AI is not going anywhere, and people are scared and they're excited both at the same time. And there's factors behind both of them. If we look at what's happened even in the last year, I mean, the work that I've done, I've seen hallucinations go way, way, way down. I've seen it actually predict what I want it to do. When I'm building reports, it says, hey, I know we've done this last time. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? It's becoming much smarter, because we really have to look at AI almost as a child. And when it was born, it's 2, 3 years old. It can't, it's still not, it gets food all over its face. It can't walk. It's having issues, yada, yada, yada. But as we go forward, it gets smarter. It learns more. It goes forward. It starts to walk. It starts to go ahead and take care of itself. I don't have to tell it to brush its teeth anymore, because it's already doing it. And then all of a sudden it's going to start to drive. And everybody kind of gets the analogy that I'm going here. But we're at the very beginning of it. And we are fascinated by what it is now. Just wait 3 or 4 years. We are going to see something completely different that's going to make this look completely archaic. And I know that we haven't talked about this, but Google, of course, is getting less and less and less. And it's not, it's falling off a cliff, still super important. And AI is increasing. But as we start to go ahead and see that AI factor become smarter and smarter and smarter, you're going to see more and more of that trust. You see more and more of that trust. It'll be more and more the preferred channel of actually getting the collective information that you're actually looking for.
Yeah, such a great point. And I'm glad that you think hallucinations are going down because sometimes I feel like, I don't know. I feel like, but I am learning to ground my AI better, like to tell my AI that it doesn't know everything and to ask me when it doesn't know. Otherwise, it will just assume that it knows everything. But I digress. We need to get into this next topic.
I'm with you.
Personal brand early. So, James, when did you start building your personal brand? Tell us a little bit about your personal brand history and why we need to be starting to build a personal brand young.
Well, there's only one life. I'm a young man of 82, so I'm now a mature brand in the senility stage, but still keeping it alive. When you leave school, you first of all got to make a decision. What am I going to do with my life? And don't set yourself 20-year views. Say, what am I going to do for the next 3 to 5 years? Get a degree, acquire a technical trade, whatever it might be. Because you've got to accelerate yourself until by the time you reach 40, your brand should be well shaped. And then it's about how you maximize the advantage of your brand. So I just think everybody is a brand without exception. And you can shape the brand by the way you look after yourself, the way you dress, the way you treat people, the way you speak to people, the way you communicate with us. If you're writing a CV, short, because the modern world, people don't read long tomes. So it's about focusing on yourself. And one of the first starting points, maybe do a SWOT analysis. What is your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities and threats? And keep revising. But ask people to be honest with you, particularly people you know very well who can tell you the truth. You may not like the truth, but face the truth. So it's how you shape yourself over the first 15 to 20 years that will determine your brand for the future.
SWOT analysis yourself. I love that. Could you walk us through that a little bit? So if we want to do a SWOT analysis of our personal brand, what might that look like?
What are your strengths? What are your strengths? First, analyze your strengths. What are your weaknesses? Now, what can you do to improve those weaknesses? Why, what are the opportunities you're looking for? What field are you? I mean, for example, I've got nothing but respect for Raymond's field. He's a nerd and he's brilliant at what he does. Now, I would say that's a weakness for me, and I have to understand that. So I'm going to work out what to do about it. What are the threats facing you? Economic, political, what are they? Where are you living? What's happening to the environment? How is the environment changing? For example, what did IBM do when they were at their peak? Did they look at the environment? The answer is no.
Mm-hmm. Great point. What's your take on all this, Anthony?
James, I want to hear, how did you build your brand? I mean, I have to say, I'm just an honor just to go ahead and be here with you, and I am more than excited to listen to you. I want to hear, how did you do it? Because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take notes, and I want to go ahead and do exactly the same thing.
Well, I was a relatively poor student. I grew up in South Africa in the midst of apartheid, with the pros and cons of obviously apartheid, which I've never liked, but thank God it's gone, although it's now been taken over by corruption at the top. But I saw education as a gateway. I knew some rich kids at university and school who ruined their lives because they got too much money too early. I was never jealous, but I was envious. I said, look, I want to have a good life. I want to live well. I want to live comfortably. I didn't say I'm going to be X, Y, Z. I just said I want to have a good life. I want to maximize the opportunity. So the first thing I did was get a degree. But in the beginning, I ran out of money, so I was a part-time student. I used to work 9 to 5. I used to walk to lectures in the evening 4 nights a week. I was a waiter in a restaurant 2 nights a week. And I always say, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And so I got my first degree. And then I joined the retail trade, working for Spar, the grocery chain in South Africa in 1965, 6, 7. And I learned a lot about retailing, because retailing was in its relative infancy. And then this newfangled MBA degree started in South Africa based on Harvard. So I decided to do the MBA degree. I had to borrow money. My bank wouldn't lend me any because I had no security. But I was playing top-class sports in the world of field of hockey. And the bank manager at another bank or competition said, James, I trust you. I'll lend you whatever you want. I said, what about security? He said, your future is good enough for me. So he lent me the money. I borrowed it. I did the MBA degree. I then worked for Coca-Cola for a year, launching canned soft drinks in South Africa, because there were no canned soft drinks in the late 60s because the cans weren't good enough. And I studied cans. I analyzed it politically for various reasons, which is a story in and of itself. And then I was headhunted to be the sales manager at 26 of Gilby, South Africa, part of Diageo now. which was, and every member of the sales force was an alcoholic. They all had chauffeurs. They were all drunk at lunch. So they employed a 26-year-old to be their boss. And the sales force couldn't understand why. And over the next 5 years, I changed that culture dramatically. Abolished the hard drinking, focused on retailing, employed the first female rep, employed the first black sales manager, employed the first teetotaler. And I was changing a culture because companies have a culture. And my job was to change that culture. And then in 1977, I was going to leave and become a study at, do some teaching at university. And I was headhunted by the chief executive of International Distillers and Vintners, which is half of Diageo today, to come to London on a 6-month trial. If I succeeded, I'd join the board. If I failed, I'd be shipped back to South Africa. And I was brought to England initially to build Bailey's Irish Cream and head up innovation. And the rest is history. I could put you to sleep for the next hour or two telling you about it.
James, that's absolutely incredible. I'm going to tell you, I deal with attorneys all the time, and your brands are still super important to them. And you'd be amazed actually how many times I see that piece from your work still going full force. And it's absolutely amazing not only to hear your story, but to hear not only where you started, but where you ended up and where you can keep on continuing to go. I'm absolutely amazed. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, could you tell us just a few more minutes of that story, James? I mean, I feel like this is a little bit of
first of all,
experience. And even Omar here is saying fascinating talk. So yeah.
Well, Bailey, when I came to London, I met a man who quite a lot older than me. He's a charming English gentleman called Tom Jager, an amazing man. He invented Bailey's Irish Cream, which failed in research. So he hid the research. You see, research is an aid to judgment, not a substitute for judgment. And I head up an innovation committee, and I'm a great innovation advisory board. I don't believe in committees, you see, because a racehorse is a camel is a racehorse designed by a committee. I like advisory boards. I want people to give me strong opinions. So I made a lot of changes to Bailey's. It was selling in America, but it was evaporating and separating. So we changed the formula, presented as a simple liqueur, and it took off. I then launched Malibu, which originated in apartheid South Africa. Mandela was in jail. It was still apartheid. And everyone thought I was crazy. But I had met and I had a major conference in the Bahamas. So I flew to Harvard to meet Ted Levitt, who inspired me to go into marketing. And I persuaded him to come and moderate my conference because I had a lot of people objecting to the fact that this fellow, James Espey, wanted to launch a brand created in South Africa as Malibu. Well, it originally was called Coco Rico. I got Ted Levitt to bless it. And I then launched the brand by importing it into England, changed the name to Malibu, called it Malibu Caribbean Style Rum. With a quotation, I love Cape Town, where I am now today. It comes from paradise and tastes like heaven. It took off. It sells 4 million cases a year. Everyone thinks it originated in the Caribbean. And that's the story today. And it's now a 4 million case brand. And it was fun. So I had a lot of fun. And then I changed jobs. And I won't bore you now, but I launched Johnnie Walker Blue Label in 1987. And launched Sugar Regal 18 in 1997, and then launched my own company, and then got a big. But I've always been an entrepreneur. In other words, I'm prepared to stand out inside the corporation. Too many corporations are very greedy. Too many people in the organization are only interested in their own job, their promotion, and their bonus. I've taken a 10 to 15-year view on everything I've done. To hell with bonuses. Build the company, make it great for the future, analyze the environment. So that's been my philosophy. Inside, I was an entrepreneur, and then at 55, I became an entrepreneur and backed a number of startups where I am heavily involved today.
Amazing. What kind of startups are you doing today?
Well, the best one you might know about, floated on the NASDAQ. I backed a bright young man called Peter Bauer, who invented a company called Mimecast. Mimecast was floated on the NASDAQ in 2016 and was acquired in 2022 for $5.6 billion. Unfortunately, I got out years ago, so I can't say. But I was chairman for the first 6 years, and we started the company in my house in London, in Wimbledon, 400 yards from the centre court. We had the first Christmas party in my house, 12 people. It's just been a great success story. But I backed a man with an inspirational idea, because I back people. I look people in the eyes, and I'm inspired by what their vision is, although I knew nothing about IT. Now, the company I want you to look at for the future, I'll recommend today, is uberbinder.com. uberbinder.com. Because 10% of all greenhouse gases come from road construction, and Uberbinder has a revolutionary approach to road construction, use a polymer sulfur. And of course, it'll take a long time to get there, but we're making great progress. And I think you watch Uber buy it, and there are others. I'm involved in a golf app called Tag Marshall with a single L, transforming, speeding up golf. It's exciting. That some will fail, but failure is the price of success. Because you never
Yes.
leave the shore, you never reach the other side.
Fail fast. Would you say that you've had some bad failures, James?
Oh yes, I have. Of course, that's part of
Of
life.
course.
But you know what? If you've got to have a go. You've got to. Obviously, the risk depends what sort of failures you are. Today, I'm an investor, and if it fails, it fails. What I don't want to risk is my home, my pension, my life. That's very brave. But I admire people who are brave. But I launched my own company called The Last Drop, selling rare whiskey at about $4,000 or $5,000 a bottle when I was 65. And one of my
Whoa.
quotes and I wrote 2 books. And one of the quotes in my book is How to Build Your Personal Brand and Succeed in Business, was that never forget from whence you come. Having flown Concorde first class and all that rubbish, I went back to flying zoo class, staying in the cheapest hotels, and I went around the world selling my whiskey. And finally, I sold it to an American company called Sazerac, where it's doing very well as a premium brand at the top of their stable.
Wow, amazing. Well, I should tell you, this show was originally called Whiskey Wednesday. It started during the pandemic. I would go live. I was a full-time CMO at a data exchange platform. I'm still their fractional CMO, BDEC, shout out to them. But yeah, every night at 9 p.m. after work, after the kids were in bed, I would drink whiskey and talk about sales and marketing live on LinkedIn. And then,
Well, I like your style.
thank you.
But
Yeah,
moderation, Jesse, that's the key.
I love that.
With rare exception, I tend to not drink until 6 o'clock in the evening, and then I watch the news with my wife and have a couple of drinks.
Moderation. Yes. Yes. Moderation is so important. Thank you for saying that. I did quit drinking for like a year. Now it's just a little bit of wine here and there.
Oh.
Yes. But anyway, yeah, that's a great topic. I would love to hear more. I want to know, like, what was your favorite brand out of all of them? But we do have more topics. But if you could just name, out of all the brands that you got to work on, what would be your number one favorite? Malibu?
Well, I suppose, obviously, Malibu is the one that I'd better for my heart. I don't have a favorite brand. I'm just proud of the brands that have been successful. I'm proud of Johnnie Walker Blue Label. I'm proud of Chivas Regal 18. I'm proud of having been involved with Bailey's in the formative years. So, I don't have a favorite one brand, but I'm just proud of building brand. What makes me most proud is having created and I didn't make much money in those days. You didn't get bonuses or anything, but I made about $15 billion for the UK economy.
Oh, wow. That's something to be proud of.
That's what I'm proud of.
Bravo, James. I love that. And I love that that's what makes you proud. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're such an inspiration. And we have 2 more hot topics to get to. But before we get to them, we have a brief message from Cherry Assistant, and we will be right back right after this message.
This is Mike, also known as Clean with Mike on Twitter. Mike hired a virtual assistant from Cherry Assistant about 2 years ago. Now, he has a $50K per month business, fully managed by a remote operator in South Africa. His VA from South Africa does the following: closing inbound leads on the phone, Yelp and Google and Facebook, manages his CRM on Gulf High Level, deals with rescheduling, cancellations, any issues, hires and manages the cleaners, and sends them daily reports and updates. Mike has a fully cash flowing business managed by a remote operator for only $8 an hour. You can also hire a US equivalent worker in the Philippines, South Africa, Latin America for a fraction of the cost with Cherry Assistant. Be like Mike and grow your business with offshore staff.
So if you're listening on podcast, what you're seeing on screen right now is a menu of services from them, including but not limited to lead generation, CRM management, prospecting assistance, sales presentation preparation, data entry and cleanup, customer support, project management assistance, and so much more. If you are looking for a VA, make sure that you just go to cherryassistant.com and check it out. You will not be you won't be disappointed, I promise. So just, go to cherryassistant.com and make sure that you mention WinsDay, and then you'll get $250 off your first month. But anyway, we want to keep hearing from you, the audience. What do you think about this conversation? Keep us honest. Ask the questions. What questions am I not asking? Or share your comments, your thoughts, your ideas. We want to hear from you. This show is about you. And before we get into our third topic, I just want to encourage you to try out High Level. You don't need to be spending 5 figures on large B2B SaaS tools for your businesses anymore, or even 4 figures. Just spend 2 figures, $97 a month. Try it out, 30 days. Just go to reveting.com/high level or try this QR code. But let's get into our third topic. We've got another really great topic, and Anthony is going to be kicking us off on this one. Beyond clicks in 2026, building durable demand in a post-cookie AI-first world. Anthony, can you kick us off?
Sounds great. And I'm going to say, James, I hope to have the drive that you do, even now, but in the future, when I get to be a little bit of an older age than I am now, I hope to have the drive I do. You should be a guru. That is an incredible story. But I digress. I'll go ahead and I'll get back into my subject. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about basically post-cookie worlds and AI first. And let's start with this. Meta, back in 2023, in regards to the suit that it actually had, it created a major shift that we have. And now consent-based marketing is a nice to have, but it's not really an option anymore. It's really what the future is going to be holding for everyone. And we've already seen this in Europe. We've already seen this in California with laws already being in place. We're going to see this across the U.S. and across and actually globally. Safari and Firefox, they've already started to go ahead and get ahead of this because nobody wants to get hit with suits. Nobody wants to get hit with issues, and we want to build trust, as we talked about before. But they're already blocking third-party cookies itself. And now even Google Chrome, the biggest player, is actually giving control to the people, not back, to the people itself, and letting them actually turn it on and turn it off to make sure, do they want third parties cookies in or not? So when we go ahead and start getting into this world, what does this really mean? In regards to third-party tracking, we're going to lose the ability to go ahead and rely on personalized ads. Return on ad spend tracking is going to get really fuzzy or start to get fuzzier. Behavioral insights, they're going to shrink. And budgets are going to go ahead and change in regards to those quick-hitting performance channels that we're all used to, that we all love. And James will go ahead and tell you this, marketing never dies. This is just an evolution of it. So since we go ahead and evolve, how are we going to become winners in this changing market? And this is going to go ahead and rely on things we talked about before, building trust and direct relationships with customers. And I've talked about it for years on other broadcasts, but it's more and more important every day. And these strategies are going to go ahead and include, to basically get the edge on the competitor, newsletters, subscriptions, loyalty programs, engaging content. We're going to also see more and more interactive experiences on all of our digital properties. And I'm going to say this right now, that I believe, and I really truly believe this, that digital properties are one of the most important assets a company can have. We're going to have more and more gated articles. They're going to go ahead and give basically access in exchange for the permissions. And then feedback loops. We're going to see more and more of those. And let's be honest, we always want those, but we're going to have them because that data, that people, that's giving us, it's actually gold. That's really the piece that we want the most. And so when that happens, what's going to happen is going to be where AI steps in, and AI is going to become that new third-party cookie. And I know I'm using quotation marks. It's not really a cookie, but it's going to act as such. So instead of relying on these cookies, we're going to be analyzing first-party data from CRMs, emails, text, communities, loyalty, apps, and a gazillion other different ways. And what we're going to have AI be doing on these new journeys is we're going to be predicting the intent and personalizing the message we really want to do. We're just going to be utilizing the signals from pages, content, location, time, and to match the message and behavior to the right person, automating the predictive marketing, and also spot patterns that many marketers today miss or are not paying attention to. And let's get this straight. This is not about replacing marketers. I don't think we're even close to that. But it's about evolving and changing what we do with smarter, privacy-safe intelligence. And so I know everybody's going to ask me, Anthony, what's the time frame on this? And this is not going to happen overnight. This learning curve is going to take some time. And we've talked about it's going to take teams, it's going to take marketers, C-level, it's going to take other teams throughout the company to all get on board. And even more importantly, it's going to take AI to go ahead and learn and adapt. As we talked about before, not have hallucinations, because that's super important. And this, when it actually comes to fruition and it matures enough, we're going to see stronger direct relationship with audiences. And that's going to mean we're going to get more of that rich first-party data that we're really looking for. So we can actually do better, more efficient campaigns without relying on those third-party cookies. And we're going to stay or become more discoverable in the privacy-first AI-driven ecosystem itself. So AI is going to become more or less your new third-party cookie. It's going to connect the signals, personalize the experience, and help drive the demand without that evasive third-party cookie that's coming on in. So instead of tracking people behind their backs, and I know I'm throwing quotation marks up on that piece, it's going to connect signals that we own. And it's going to personalize experiences ethically. And it can also help drive the demand that we're really looking for. So if there's any takeaways on this piece right here, it's going to be that third-party cookies are out, brand mentions, semantic signals, and trust are in. And I really think that if everybody starts following this playbook in their business, or maybe it's the marketing aspects, or maybe it's for their company, or a gazillion different aspects, it will really help actually drive the conversions and the need for what you have out to the consumer itself.
Absolutely. So interesting. And I love what you said about trust, because trust is absolutely just the most important thing out of all of it. And, you know, what my mind goes to with all of this is how us marketers or advertisers, now we get to target our audiences deterministically with, you know, like you said, we can take data from our CRM, feed it to AI, and we can learn about our audiences. But also with the data out there, we can learn exactly where they're tuning in. We don't have to target probabilistically anymore, where we used to just sort of guess and hope that the ad we were going to show was going to have our audience in it. Our target demographic might, you know, like back in the day, you might target a soap opera with a TV ad because, you know, you think you're going to have women, certain age demographic there. But now it's like, we know exactly the women we want to target. We know what shampoo they buy. We know where they live. We know how many kids they have. And we want to target them during the day while they're watching that soap opera, but we'll target them on Instagram during the ad breaks. You know, so now it's like we can be so specific in how we target deterministically. And it's really a great thing, but it's also detrimental, because if you are your messaging is off, you can come off as a creep and then people won't trust you. So I'm curious from your perspective, James, on you know, just how marketing has evolved from, you know, I think you said you were did you say you were at Harvard in 1979, James, studying marketing?
No, I visited Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. I went to meet Ted Levitt.
Ted Levitt.
I got him to
Okay.
help me get approval internally, because you've got to persuade your own people first to support you when you create something. And I got him to help me launch Malibu.
Okay, gotcha. So from that point with Ted Levitt to where we are now, where we're targeting people deterministically, like I just described, like how have you seen marketing evolve, and what are some of the things that never change?
I think the first thing to accept is who is the boss of the business. And there's only one boss, the customer who votes with his or her feet. Too many organizations forget that, particularly large organizations. They become too internal, become too self-seeking, chasing promotion, their bonuses. You know, I always say, if you get a bonus, it only has three purposes: pay the mortgage, pay the school fees, and plan for your pension. But if you depend on your bonus every year, you make decisions that are bad to make the bonus. So what you got to understand is the only real boss is the customer. Now, and I have nothing but respect for what Anthony has said, because you also got to understand the changing environment. You've got to understand the environment, and you've got to use AI to its best as part of your marketing resource. So obviously, I don't understand it, but it's my job to make sure that if I'm in a large organization, I have people understand how AI can help me efficiently, financially efficiently, and reach the audience. Because the other point to make is today we live in a global village. There's no place to hide. So on the one hand, whatever you say, everyone will know about, good and bad. On the other hand, you can reach people more easily. But I'm a great believer in although we're talking electronically, which is phenomenal, I also have this quote called ditch Zoom and get in the room. It's complementary, not instead of. I'm a great believer in meeting people. I've been to America over 100 times. Now, that was obviously before modern AI world, but I traveled and met the customers, met the key distributors who are selling to the customers, and meet people and build relationships, because I'm old-fashioned. To be a handshake is still a contract. Unfortunately, that doesn't apply too often today. I think Anthony mentioned lawyers. Well, I don't like spending my life working with lawyers. I like to be old-fashioned and trust people, but that's my personal story.
James, I don't think anybody does. But James,
let me ask you a question, Anthony. What does the word team stand for?
I'm hoping you're going to tell me here after I have it wrong. Please.
Well, perhaps you might tell Donald Trump. Anyway, team stands for together, everyone achieves more. There's no I in the word team. I'm a great believer in building a team. And even if you're the chief executive of the organization, don't say I, say we. We are building America. We are building this brand. We are building the stadium. And I have also done 2 doctorates. And I did 2 practical doctorates on marketing and strategy. And when I presented my doctorates, I thanked everybody for helping me. I presented to the company because it was a strategy, what we have been doing. And there's too much focus on I, not enough on we. And I think that's an important part of life and business, and help you as you shape your career.
Well, James, I think that's the reason why you're successful. It wasn't about what you did. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot that you did. But it's more or less about you and the team and the product. And when we talked about you and I both talked about this quite a bit, the trust for the customer and making sure that the customer feels first, knows they're first, and will be first. And I have to say, that right there is the reason why the drive that you have has been to be able to develop into what you have created, which is phenomenal.
Well, it excites me. For example, I've got a brand called Tag Marshall. Would you believe it? It started in South Africa. It's doing well in America today. It's to help people with golf. You look up Tag Marshall with a single L, they'll tell you what it's about. One day somebody will acquire that company. I'm a tiny shareholder, but as a golfer, I'm a terrible golfer. But the good news at my age is every time I hit a bad shot, I'm still above the ground, you see. But anyway, that's the good news. But the point is, Tag Marshall is everybody that goes out, uses Tag, takes out a little app with it, and you can see where they play. They can speed up golf. They can save 13 minutes a round. Now, if you're a commercial golf course, that's good for business. So I like things that are good for business, good for the consumer. Speeding up golf makes you a happier person. If we've got to constantly improve the lives of people, that's what I believe we should be doing. But not by drinking too much, of course, Jesse. I've lost you.
I said that's what business is all about. It's there.
Sorry, I didn't hear you for a second. Yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said? I was just reiterating what you said and celebrating, helping people and putting the customer first and saying you over I or we over I.
Yeah. And always analyze the environment, taking the point that Anthony makes. I don't understand AI, but it's important to make sure that the people I work with do, and we understand the advantages of AI and use it effectively. And use everything. Every organization should always be making itself obsolete, but looking to the future.
Especially in marketing, right? Marketing is always changing so fast.
Correct.
It's like that's the one thing that's one constant in marketing is that it's always changing. A lot of companies have absolutely lost their way. Absolutely, Nina. I want to hear from everyone else. Less is more. Yes. What are you all thinking about this? We want to hear your comments, your questions. What are you, I don't know, what's just going on in your head as you're sitting, you're scrolling on LinkedIn, listening to us talk on about these topics. And in the meantime, let's transition to our 4th topic, which is who is the real boss of your business? We've already kind of transitioned into this, but will you officially kick us off on this topic, James?
Well, that's I have in a sense spoken about earlier. The only
Yep.
boss in the business is the customer who votes with his or her feet. And you may be the chief executive, but you're not the boss until people actually in your organization regard you as a chief executive. Your title may say chief executive, but it means nothing. Whereas the only boss is the customer. And that's why, whether you're Walmart, whether you're Amazon, whether you're Marriott Hotel Group, you're going to constantly be looking at the changing customer. What are their needs? What do they want? What makes them different? And when you do that, that means, if you're your own company, you can look at it and say, what I need to do to change, or you see a gap and you start a new company. And obviously, entrepreneurs do that. They see a gap in the environment and they launch something. And, that's important. But always looking at the environment. What is changing in the world? What are government pressures? What are environmental pressures? How do we analyze these? Is it how serious is the problem of global warming? What can I do to improve things and also make money out of it? You've got to constantly look at the environment. But the only boss is the customer. I repeat that point all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. What was that question that we had in there from Nina? What are the trends you find most troublesome? That might be regarding earlier when we were talking about marketing and how it's always changing. I'm not sure. Clarify your question, Nina. And in the meantime, Anthony, what's your take on all this?
Like I said, and I've owned multiple businesses, not to the success what James has, but haven't done.
Well, I'm sure you have.
But I couldn't agree more with James on this. Everybody has a boss, and maybe it's the boss above you, maybe this, but the CEO has the boss. And I learned this when I was 22, and one of my first businesses is that the customer is always right even when they're not right. It doesn't matter. They are my boss, and guess what? Their money is going to go ahead and make sure that this business is either successful or not. So they are right. And I need to listen. Not only do I need to listen, I need to appreciate what they're telling. And I've mentioned this a couple times in regards to making sure that first party data, or making sure that the customer is speaking to us. And I know that James even talked about this. You don't want to hear it sometimes, but it doesn't matter. This is the part that makes you successful. If you can go ahead and listen to it, even if it hurts and it's painful, it's the worst thing you ever heard, but navigate and then get back up and then alter and then change what you are actually doing. That's the difference between success and failure for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think one of the other points that is not appreciated enough is we have to learn global respect.
Mm.
You don't fly to Japan and demand a McDonald's when you're with your Japanese hosts. When I first went to Japan in 1977, they took me to a French restaurant. I said, I want to eat Japanese. Oh, Espey. And whenever I go to a new country, I eat the local food. I learn one or two words like please and thank you. Remember, English may be their third language or their fourth language, and we don't have enough respect for the culture wherever we go. And that's one of my great concerns about international business. People get on an airplane, they arrive there, and they try and impose their culture. You must respect the local culture. Although the world is a shrinking village, which it is, wherever you go, if you go somewhere in Africa, somewhere in Europe, somewhere in Asia, South America, respect the local culture. And that's part of where you have to, for example, numbers may be superstitious. Some numbers are not appropriate, are not acceptable in parts of the world. Do you know that? So I think some things you say, now Japan, if you say yes, doesn't mean it means I agree with you. It means I hear you. You've got to learn these little nuances.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
It's always about respect.
Yeah. And, that's probably part of what made you a great marketer is you were able to put yourself in other people's shoes, and understanding their culture is a part of that. It's
and lightheartedly, shoes is an important point. I was giving a lecture at my old school last week when I finished school 65 years ago, because they gave me some award, and I was talking to the students and said, as you start in life, when you meet people, you stand up when you shake hands, and you look them in the eyes. You switch off your mobile phone and you put it aside. You don't talk to people looking at your mobile phone, and make sure your shoes are clean and your fingernails are neat, because the first impressions count when you're looking for a job. And I once was offered chairmanship of a public company in England. I was down to the last two people. I got the job because my shoes were clean. That's life.
Yeah.
Of course,
Your shoes are
you
clean.
you're not seeing my shoes, fortunately. I'm in a bedroom right now. See, I'm plus six hours on from you.
That was like a really important thing though, is like shining your shoes, right? At one point. Like you had to
Well, my
have your
quote is present yourself as you wish to be perceived.
yes. Yes,
Present yourself as
exactly.
you wish to be perceived. You know, in the days where you were, when okay, people don't wear ties that often now, but I wear a blazer a lot, and I always have a pocket handkerchief, ideally that matches the color of my shirt. You know, just try and be neat, not over the top, fitted with whatever is appropriate, but try and be neat and look at people in the eyes and ask questions.
And ask questions. Yes, ask questions. I love that. Anything else on this topic that either of you would want to add before we move on?
I'm
Who's the
quite
real
relaxed
boss?
in the day. If customers have got a question, I'm always happy to answer them.
Oh, yes. Well, with that, let's move into the guru of the week. Ooh, the guru of the week. We have a guru that's deceased. I think that's the first, but I'm going to pull myself out of the screen here magically. Poof. Tell us.
I can't hear a word.
Okay. My guru of the week is going to be Jeff Humby. Reason why he's the guru of the week for me is that he was one of the originators of digital marketing that I was able to work with. And with that being said, he created and actually showed me about marketing, not in a marketing now aspect, but marketing for the future and what the future holds. And that is the key to success. He taught me something there that I will never be able to repay back to him. And I have to say, I am very, very just happy to even acknowledge him or actually tell him thank you for the things he's done, but to be able to go ahead and call him a guru, because some of the information and the knowledge that he imparted on me and the way to go ahead and do business, and he works for a very, very large company that's very successful, has really helped me in general in just regards to marketing as a whole.
Do you want me
James,
to comment?
I think it's up to you, James, here.
Okay. Well, my guru of the week is really, I like the word week because he's been dead a long time. But when I was a young student in the early 60s, I was going to be an accountant because I won the bookkeeping prize, but I would have been a terrible accountant and I would have found it quite boring. And I was inspired to go into marketing by reading a book or two by Theodore Levitt, who was a professor of marketing at Harvard University. He wrote a book on innovation in marketing and various articles. And I read a number of articles by him. For example, you know, he would quote, talking about the environment, he would say, for example, the television grew from people in the movie business didn't see television as part of it. They didn't understand you in the entertainment business. People who are in the gas business didn't see petrol or fuel. They didn't see themselves being in the same business. And Ted Levitt inspired me to look at the external environment and read and analyze and think about where things are going. And these books inspired me. And even to this day, I've still got a copy or two in my office. And when I went to see him in 1979, when I met him, he signed me a personal copy, which I've got, because he helped me when I launched Malibu, as I mentioned earlier. And I use his power and his reputation to help me convince internal people who are opposed to it that it's worth trying. So he was he gave me marketing inspiration.
That is so
That's it.
cool. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing about both of your gurus. So you heard it here, everyone. Go follow Jeff Humby. I don't think you're going to find Theodore Levitt on LinkedIn, unfortunately.
No.
But yeah, you can Google him. We found him on Google pre-show. It looked like there was a page about him out there somewhere. But thank you both so much for sharing about your gurus of the week. And before we wrap up, could you both let the listeners know a little bit more about yourselves? Just exactly what it is you do, who you serve, how you serve them, and if they could be served by you, how do they reach you? Anthony?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I work for a company called Need Attorney. It's AI driven and it actually connects clients with attorneys that they need actually at the moment, and actually returns it to them in real time, based on multiple different factors on what they are in their injuries and or their lawsuit needs and or their legal case needs. And that's been actually picking up quite a bit of work in regards to the new aspect of the AI being driven. And from there, I also do a lot of consulting in regards to digital marketing itself as a total. From AI to SEO to Google ads to Bing ads to TikTok to everything else. And you can find me on TikTok. I'm sorry, not TikTok. You can find me on LinkedIn at Anthony-May2, and go ahead and find me there. And if anybody needs any help, I will go ahead and more or less give them an hour free of help that they need to help go ahead and get them started where they need to go. And that's what I have to say with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And how about you, James?
Well, first of all, my main interest now is I'm chairman of a startup English whiskey distillery called Wiltshire Distilling. And it's near Stonehenge, which is a famous place in England. And we have a brand called Witchmark. It's a local mark historically called Witchmark. And currently we've got a gin and a vodka that's doing very well. We're doing things responsibly in terms of the environment, that the way it should be done. And our whiskey is quietly sleeping in barrels because whiskey has to be in wood for a minimum of 3 years before you can sell it. So it's the last business project I'm going to be involved in, and I'm hoping we'll be selling Witchmark globally in a few years' time. But in the meantime, we're selling our gin and our vodka. That aside, I've written 2 books to help the next generation. My first book is called How to Build Your Personal Brand and Succeed in Business, and it's based on success and failure. I've even got a chapter called It's Not So Bad Being Fired. I've got chapters on how you deal with a new boss, how you deal with a changing environment, how you start your own company. You know, for example, one of my favorite quotes, when you start a new business, it usually takes twice as long and twice as much money as you ever thought to break even. Can you last the journey? That's my secondly. Turnover is for vanity, profits for sanity, but only cash is reality. You can't bank turnover and profit, only cash. And so you've got to have tenacity and determination. And then my second book was because people have a short attention span. It's called 365 Quotes to Accelerate Your Career and Find Balance in Life. So I'm having a lot of fun. I'm in a lot of startups. I mentioned some, but I don't interfere. I'm a friend and a mentor because I'm also a great believer at this stage of life. It's not for me to tell you what to do. The world has changed, but I'm available to draw on whatever experience I have to offer if it's of help. So I'm involved with a number of startups. As I mentioned earlier, some will work, some will fail. I'm very excited about Uber Binder, and that in particular because it's so good for the environment. But I've got a number of other startups in rum. I'm in one called Marlin Spike in America. I'm involved in a brand called Ghost Tequila. So, you know, I'm having a lot of fun helping people, but never interfering. Other than even at Wiltshire, I'm the non-executive chairman, and I hope to sell the company just before I turn 90.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a great goal. I love that, James. And I know that you're going to accomplish it so quickly.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. And hopefully you'll come back on the show and
Well,
keep
you live
us
every
posted.
day, but you only die once.
That's right. That's right. So what did you say the name of the brand is? Which something?
Witchmark. Witchmark. Watch in the next few years. Because you see, English whiskey is taking off now. You think it's Scottish whiskey, 150 odd distilleries, but there are about 20, 30 distilleries in England. As long as you make it properly. American bourbon, 10 years ago, you couldn't give it away. Bourbon is now very hot and doing brilliantly. And Sazerac's a company I'm friendly with. They're doing brilliantly. They've got some great bourbons. So, you know, end of the day, make sure your product is always of the highest quality, but make sure it relates to the consumer.
Awesome. I love that so much. And when I can find some witch milk on the shelves here in the US, we'll have to bring you back on the show so I can drink some live.
Wow, looking forward to that. But in the meantime, you'll see Witchmark gin and vodka doing well.
Sounds great. Well, I love hearing that. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. This has been an excellent show. And we have yet another episode planned for next week. We've got 2 more really great guests planned to come on, Ishan. And oh, yes, we have a last minute move around. So we're rebooking a couple guests. We don't know for sure who is coming on with Ishan next week. But Ishan has scaled a couple marketing agencies. So that's going to be another really great conversation. But until then, thank you again, James and Anthony, for coming on. And I hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday.
Well, I'm now off to sleep. I'm off to sleep for a few hours.
Okay, James. Well, thank you.
Thank you for inviting us on.
Absolutely.
It's only 3 o'clock in the morning now, or something like that.